Hello everyone and welcome to Gierok Farms. It is a very exciting day here on the dairy farm. We are going to let the cows on the front pasture. Spring is fast approaching here. The grass is starting to green up and we're going to give them a little taste of what they've been waiting for all winter long. Right now Mason, he's letting them out of the barn. Once we get them all in the barnyard here, we'll open up the gates. Hope you all enjoy the video.
Babe. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Watch him now. Watch him perk up. Come on. Look at this. Stampede.
Better hurry up. Better hurry up, Mason.
Come on. Come on. Somebody's got to go shut a gate. They all ran in here and then they all turn around and run back.
Oh, there's a group that ran up over that way too, and then you got the group hanging back here.
Why do you think they do that? They run through the gate like they're going to run you over, and then one decides, uh-oh, maybe we went too far, and they turn around and they go around all the way back to the barn door. And I think what we got is some of these younger ones, like this here's a heifer that came in like maybe late fall. She never was really with the group on pasture here. All those younger ones, they're kind of like, what's going on? You know, and that's the old group. They're going to be pooped tonight. This is good for them. So there's no grass out here yet. What are we? Early April. It finally started settling out. There might be a little bit of frost on the north sides in the dirt yet. It's time to get them out of the barnyard, at least for until it like rains or something. So this is what we call the front. We did videos before on this. And there's, I don't know how many acres you think this is, this whole thing in here. 20, 25, 30 maybe with slope it probably could be up to 30 acres. But yeah, so we got a fence there just past the cows here that goes up, and that side we'd call that our main pasture, our big pasture. They won't get that until they're virtually staying out overnight, which will probably be the first few days of May. Usually that's when it comes to. All depends on the year. Once I give them that, they're pretty much out day and night. We give them the front, we still keep them in at night. Of course, there's nothing to eat out here right now, so they're going to be out here maybe 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. They'll be going back in. Besides, the ground is so cold.
Touch on some key facts. What's the earliest you've ever had them out day and night when it comes to grazing?
Oh, goodness. 22nd, 23rd or so of April. We're west central Wisconsin. Take that in consideration. Those guys for the north's going to make a difference. Typically, it's the weather. You don't want to put them out overnight when it's cold rain and all that. Even if there is some grass, you might get some pneumonia, being that they're not used to that. Right now, even, you know, the ground is kind of cold, so they're gonna go scratch around and they'll probably just, yeah. So spring is here. It's exciting. There's a lot of stuff's going to start coming at us real fast. So that's kind of the neat thing. So about the time we're able to start planting corn, it always seems like that's maybe the first or second day I'm able to graze the cows overnight. Where then we don't have to clean gutter or bed stalls. Really cuts back on the work. But then we start going in the fields. So got that work. So it doesn't slow down.
That's kind of a more passive rotation.
Yeah, rotational grazing is a good thing, but you got to keep in mind on a farm like this, it's really hard to do it by the book, being that the terrain, everything is valleys and slopes, and in order to get them into, for instance, the pasture that's over there, they have to go through, you know, another pasture to get there. And then, of course, you can't just send them up any slope someplace, you know, you got to go with the contour of the hill where the cows are able to
Yep. And it's another thing every day. I had an older farmer say, he's like, that's the reason I put them out on pasture, so I don't have to be working with them every day. And then if you're pushing them every day, moving them every day, you kind of, that becomes part of your chore again.
It's a management thing, and I think when you don't have a lot of pasture, it's kind of interesting. So the milk cows at night, they would always go the furthest. Like when we start grazing full throttle, they would go completely to the other corner of the farm and then graze for a while, then lay down, and then of course morning they graze for a while, and then they come home and that sun comes over the hill and starts warming things up. And in the daytime, when they get out from milking in the morning, a lot of times they'll just go stand under a tree someplace, and then maybe, I don't know, early mid-afternoon they'll go graze for a while and then come back. They don't seem to go as far. It's always been that way. It doesn't seem to matter how else, you know, how we do it. I think it's fly start in,
cool weather and wet grass. That's
yeah, I think it just seems to be more of a, it's just like us. I mean, if when the weather's nicer, you feel more like going further and doing more. You learn your cow, you know, their nature, and then like you said, your guy's telling you too that we don't want to make pasture any more work than it has to be. But I think when you have a lot of pasture, you're able to just kind of not necessarily play that game as much as, but when you're limited on pasture, rotating, you can definitely get more out of it.
You can be more efficient with what you have. And then another key point, what time of year are you doing your cattle drive for your heifers? That we always make videos on that, but how does that line up with when the dairy herd's grazing?
So the dairy herd's always out first again. So what happens is there's not enough grass yet to support them full throttle. And when milking cows, if you want to have full production, or at least a reasonable amount of production, you got to keep their bellies full. So it gets warm, then all of a sudden it gets a little cold again, and that's how our springs are. Pretty soon the grass, you know, they kind of catch up. They get it all trimmed up, and then you're still feeding them in the barn some. So as far as our heifers and dry cows, which are kind of our bull barn area there, but once we put them up, we want to be sure there's enough grass that we don't have to start supplementing hay. Or I've had it where there was no leaves on the trees yet, but there was grass, and it got kind of warm and nice, and let's get them out of the yard here. And typically it could be the 10th, between the 10th and maybe the 15th of May. That'll vary from year to year. And then of course, never want to just chase them up when some bad weather's coming in, because that's going to be the first time out overnight without a roof over their head from 6 months. So then there was no leaves on the trees, and then we ended up getting some cold rain, and I think we ended up with a little bit of snow one time even, you know, it was just something that lasted maybe just overnight or something. But then you get concerned about that, you know. And then I've had times where I just brought like a portion of them up. I just say all the dry cows, because they're big animals and they usually are more adaptable to the pasture versus heifers that never been on grass before, because they will lose weight at first, and that fresh grass just runs right through them. It's so high in protein, and as the summer wears on, the grasses start growing slower or something, and you start getting more of that older growth in it. I always love them. The fall grazing, I think, as far as dry cows and heifers is by far the best. They just seem to put weight on better. They look good. It's almost a shame to bring them in, you know, like, sure, the weather's going to get cold, and
And there's something to be said for grass that grows slow. It's definitely a more nutrient dense grass versus in the spring of the year you get a lot of volume, and then they're not used to it. But then in the fall you still get enough warm growing days to where you get, you know.
Yeah, you said it. It's like it packs more into that biteful. Where we became more aware of this, so my wife's from Switzerland. We've been up there in the mountains. Once you get above the tree line, we look at like their hay that they got stored away for winter. It almost looks like lawn clippings. And the piles for the amount of cattle, you know, how are they going to make the whole winter on this? We're just heaping it in front of our cows, and a lot of it I think just has to do with our climate, how fast the stuff grows. You can have a huge pile of feed with not a lot of vitamins and nutrients and stuff in that stuff, because like you said, it grows so fast. Sometimes on a drought year, like right now, we're feeding hay from 2 years ago that was made during a dry time, and boy, they're doing really good on that. they're filling up on less.
Yeah.
And it may be more of they adapt to the world around them, you know.
It's like a person eating cereal and ice cream versus eating a steak. That steak, you know, it took a lot more energy to make that steak, and you're gonna feel better, and you know, you're gonna do better.
It's like everything in farming. You just gotta feel it out. And we got heavy clay here, especially on this end of the farm. Around the buildings more, it's a little more sand, and I wouldn't say sandy, but a little sandy or lighter soils in the knobs and stuff. So when it does get really dry, you can really see it. But as we get to the back end of the farm, more clay. I mean, it becomes, you learn how the grasses grow. You got to make it work for what your situation is. Grass on this farm is going to be a lot different than the grass on a sandy farm or some farm way up north, for instance, or something like that, versus what you're going to get out of it. And then the types of grasses too. So like when I seed the hay, I like to mix all kinds of varieties in, because it all depends. Like your cool season grasses, that's your orchard grasses, they just seem to go crazy right off. And then when you get during the heat of the summer, that stuff almost turns almost like an orange color. It doesn't seem to look as appealing, you know. It just depends on the type of growing season you get and the time of the year. So you kind of mix it up a little bit so you get a variety.
So there's a little insight on the first step out on pasture here for the dairy cows. We'll get some more clips of them roaming around here, checking it out, getting familiar. But then we'll be getting back to chores.
They're not really kicking up their heels like I thought they would. They're kind of like, well, what are we supposed to do out here? There's really nothing here. This is just like, what are you listening here for?
It's nice. They'll get some sunbathing in. Get some out of the yard.
That's just it. The barnyard, you know, that's starting to dry off. But it's good for the hooves and all that. I mean, it's just like us. You need to get out of here.
Yeah, stretch your legs. Number 16 must be camera shy. She was just going crazy with that thing. There she goes again. Seems like every nice day one of them has their way with that brush. But it was nice to see all them cows out on pasture. But we'll get back to work here and help Mason and Dad finish post-milking chores in the barn. All right, we have the barn all cleaned up. It was fun to watch the dairy cows dip their toes out onto the pasture. Let us know what you thought of it. We'll have some more pasture related videos throughout the summer, especially that cattle drive to the back 80. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to share, like, subscribe, comment, and we will see you all next time.